This weekend, we all had to experience the Trump call to Georgia election officials that we were all appalled by. And we've now had at least a full day of the news cycle of people being appalled. But is that like it? Or are we just all moving on? There's no consequences or anything? Well, joining us now to discuss is Democratic strategist and contributor to the Daily Beast, the New York Daily News, as well as the Independent, Max Burns. Welcome back to the Damage Report.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. So your most recent work in the Independent is about how Trump's phone call is worse than you might think. It's obviously bad for a lot of reasons. Why is it worse than many people might already have realized?
I think what's amazing about this call is how clear Donald Trump is about what the GOP has become under his leadership, what makes a good Republican. And that is a willingness to put yourself at legal risk, to put the party at legal risk, to put democracy at risk in order to give the president what he wants. And if you don't, he's going to harass you, he's going to bully you, and do everything he can to destroy you. And that is your new value-free GOP.
Yeah, he was very clear several times, implying that if you're on that call, let alone for the last few years, that if you're not supporting him, you're not a good Republican, or you're doing it for people who will never vote for you, like standing up for yourself is for the wrong reason. If only Democrats would appreciate it. So what I'm curious is, why do you think they're not going along with it more? Is it just principles? Is it a feeling of insulation from his wrath that some federal elected officials don't have? Why are they? Because lots of Republicans are going along with it and are going to be trying to interfere in a variety of ways. Why do you think that they're not?
With Georgia specifically, I think part of it is self-interest, that this is an election that Brad Raffensperger oversaw. And it doesn't look good for him to suddenly come out and say, actually, this election that I put my name on is full of irregularities. Now, it's important to note that, as most regular, normal people know, there was no actual voter fraud in Georgia. The Secretary of State there said that multiple times on the call, increasingly clearly to the president. But there is a sense that some Republicans, declining numbers, still seem to care about the institution of government. But I'm not ready to call Brad Raffensperger a hero yet. This is still the guy who's working to put voter suppression into law in Georgia against Black and brown communities. But on this single act, he stood up and said the right thing and did the right thing. And we should be willing to commend that.
Yeah, and I think sort of similarly, like Brian Kemp has been attacked by the president a lot, but Brian Kemp is he's a pro-Trump Republican who has overseen voter suppression in Georgia. But he is, including in the call, being attacked just constantly. Trump also last night at his rally said that he would be back in a year and a half to participate in whoever's primarying Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp so far hasn't either been willing or able to deliver whatever it is that Trump wants. But do you expect that for Kemp, this is going to be the end of his career inevitably? Is this a cautionary tale for other Republicans of what happens if you don't deliver for Donald Trump?
I think if we look at how Georgia went in November and what Stacey Abrams has done there, if it's the end of Brian Kemp's career, it's going to be because a Democrat beats him, not because Donald Trump decides his career is over. But I do think he's making a really concerted effort to just ignore the president. And one of the sort of saddest, most desperate moments in that call was when Donald Trump said, listen, I came down and campaigned for Brian Kemp. I got Brian Kemp elected. So give me a break. I just need some votes from you guys, as if this is a quid pro quo that the Secretary of State can make. And it just shows you how divorced from reality the president has become in trying to process this loss.
So I think we all agree that it was terrible. A lot of it was an hour long call. You could stick your finger at any point in the timeline and hit something that's at the very least unethical, if not outright illegal. But the question is, from your point of view, what do you think is likely to happen and what do you think should happen? There are some Democrats, including Representative Ilhan Omar, who is saying she wants him to be impeached again. There are others, like I believe Hank Johnson is saying that he wants him to be censured. And there are others like Hakeem Jeffries, who's like, we're looking forward, we're not gonna do anything. It's too close to the inauguration. What do you think is likely to happen and what would you like to see happen?
In my opinion, I think this absolutely calls for some kind of investigation by the FBI at minimum. The Georgia Secretary of State has actually said that President Trump could be on the hook for some charges in Georgia because of the way he conducted that call. Now, it's unrealistic, I think, that the Republicans in Georgia are going to bring Donald Trump up on charges, but it shows you just how transparent this corruption has become, that even Republicans are seeing it's increasingly too hot to touch. And with all due respect to Joe Biden's plan to just move forward and start a new era, you can't just ignore crises of government like this, crises of ethics like this. That sends the message that as long as you can survive, you can get away. And that's absolutely not the message we need to be sending to any future aspiring Trump in this country.
I would hope not. Finally, one other question. Why Georgia? Like it's just seems so weird to me, the phone call, because even if they found the 11,000 votes and delivered it to him, they would deliver it to a guy who would still lose the election. And look, obviously they have court cases, that they've had in a variety of states, but he really does seem to be laser focused on the fact that he lost Georgia. Why do you think that is?
It all comes down to, as everything does with Donald Trump, his ego. The fact that it doesn't change the electoral tally is miles from Donald Trump's mind right now. What he sees and what his critics see is a Republican who, for the first time in a generation, lost ruby red Georgia. Not only did all of the swing states that went for Trump that were traditionally blue go back to blue, a state that no self-respecting Republican has come close to losing went blue. And when you look at someone who's already in a category of his own for incompetence, for failed policy, to add being the most losing Republican in memory is just too much for his psyche to bear. And he's willing to do anything to at least say, I held the line. And unfortunately, that's not true.
Yeah, it's a sad explanation, but for him in particular, it really does seem to fit. Max Burns, as always, we appreciate you joining us. If you're watching this right now, Max's writing is available, including on this topic. It's available at The Independent right now. You should definitely go take a look at it. Max, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.